Welcome to episode 5 of the Dan Wilkins Show. Last week we interviewed Ethan Whitley, an infielder at UT Martin. But today we are staying in the college scene and interviewing John Steigelmeier, who is the head coach of the South Dakota State Jackrabbits, an FCS Division I football program. He's made the FCS Playoffs 8 times in the past 10 years and even won the Missouri Valley Conference in 2016. Welcome to the show, Mr. Steigelmeier.
Good to be with you, Dan.
So, before you started coaching, did you play any organized football?
I grew up in a small town in South Dakota, and so we had just the basic sports. I played football. It was 8-man for 2 years, and then we moved to 9-man, so you understand how small the community was, 700 total people. And then I played basketball and wanted to go out for track. I grew up on a farm. Wanted to go out for track. My dad said I was too slow. I'd be better served in the tractor, so didn't let me go out for track, but that was fine. I did a lot of farming with my father in the early years.
So what gave you an interest in coaching in college football?
Well, I went to South Dakota State. I did not play college football, and I was going to be a math teacher. I got a math degree, and I was going to be a coach, high school coach. And I took coaching a football class. And the head coach at that time, John Gregory, said, "You'd learn a lot more football." He was addressing the whole team or the whole class. "You'd learn a lot more football if you became a student coach." And what he was looking for is a bunch of student managers, is what he's looking for. And I was a simple guy, so I took him up on it. And so I was on the career path to be a math teacher and a coach. You know, I love sports. In fact, I was a math teacher in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, for 3 years before I got into college. But standing on the football field, to answer your question, one day I looked at the coaches and I thought, well, why couldn't I do that? And so it was really that opportunity that kind of lit the fire, turned the light bulb on for me. And I went in and talked to Coach Gregory and I said, "How do I become a college football coach?" And he said, "Get your master's in physical education," because in those days everybody taught. And he said, "Don't get married." And I was a math major and I just got engaged, so I was just straight to. But I got my master's, I got a minor or a major in physical education, master's, and then I've been here for a long time.
So when you started coaching, obviously not every coach starts at the top of the totem pole. Everybody's got to work their way up. So when you started coaching, did you eventually want to become a head coach?
I did. I didn't understand what head coaches do. I think it's like a lot of things. You want to do this or build a house or get married or be a CEO, and then you get there and you find out you don't know but 10% of what really happens. But I always went into every staff meeting as an assistant, wanting to be heard and wanting to think. I didn't like staff members that just went in there and daydreamed. I thought that was a waste of their existence, really. And so I think that was the kind of background for me that thought I could run these meetings also. And so, yeah, I wanted to be a head coach.
What did you do in your early years that had you have more expertise with defense and offense?
Yeah, my background is defense. I've coached a little offense as a head coach when we had staff shortfalls and stuff. But really, my training is in the secondary and defense. And really how that happened, honestly, Coach Hensel, who I was under, resigned, and so I was out of a job. And in 91, we hired a good friend, a guy named Mike Daly. And so I really went from being the defensive backs coach, being out of a job for a couple days. He ended up being hired, and I interviewed, and I got a job promotion. So I went from D-backs coach to D coordinator. So again, work hard, be a good person like my dad taught me on a farm, and good things happen, and I've been blessed.
So after 6 years as the South Dakota State defensive coordinator from 91 to 97, you were eventually promoted to head coach. How did you feel then?
Well, it's my alma mater. I'd been there 9 years already as an assistant. I felt like I'd died and gone to heaven, and one of the things that is missing in the story right now is I left Northern State, went to Wisconsin, University of Wisconsin, under a guy named Don Morton, because I wanted to be an FBS coach. I promised all my college roommates tickets to the Rose Bowl And so you don't go to the Rose Bowl from South Dakota State or Northern State. I really spent a year at the University of Wisconsin with the Badgers, and I loved it. But that's not the way I was wired. I didn't want football to run my life. I didn't want to have 3 weeks off in the summer. And now we work hard. I work hard. But I didn't want to be married to football. I want to be married to my family and be able to go to church on Sundays and so on. So that's why I ended up back at South Dakota State. And then when I became a head coach, again, just totally blessed to be at that level. And we were Division II in those days. We were in Division II in the North Central Conference, one of the best Division II conferences in America, but that's disappeared now with some of the moves and stuff.
So originally, in your early years of coaching the Jackrabbits, they did struggle. They failed to make the playoffs until, I think 2001 that was. So how did you adapt to those challenges of being a head coach because your team did struggle early on?
Yeah, I think it's really important as a head coach to understand who you are and, to not copy somebody. I've been blessed to study on professional visits with some very successful head coaches and some very successful programs and take information from those programs. But then in the end, you have to be yourself. And so I would say in the early years, I was figuring out who I was. I started out, honestly, getting after student athletes with earrings and getting after them with tattoos, questioning why they did it, and telling them to cut their hair. And after about 2 years, nobody liked me, and I figured out that God made them a certain way, and I should love them that way. And I high five guys. It was for their jewelry. I want to know why they got the tattoo. I rejoice in long hair because if they're comfortable with that. And so I really came into my own, and honestly, SDSU Division II only made the playoffs one time in the history of the Division II era. So it was not a dominant football program until really we moved up a level, and that again is proof there's miracles.
Yeah, and talking about the Great West Conference, when you won that in 2007, what was that like for you to finally win a conference championship after 10 years as a head coach of a college team?
Yeah, it felt good. We went, North Dakota State and ourselves went FCS, and in fact, it wasn't FCS in those days, it was 1AA football. There's 1A and 1AA, now it's FBS and FCS, but again, we went and really we won that conference championship with a bunch of guys that were recruited to be Division II players. And so I was really proud of that. Not to take anything against them, because I think at our level, a young man can come in here and work hard and pursue his dream and be in the NFL if it works out. And so very proud of our program, very proud of what we do on the field and in the classroom and stuff. But that was cool to win the conference championship. We won it late in the season against North Dakota State. And they were ranked real high, and we weren't, and so it's a big win at home for the Jacks.
So the Jackrabbits were eventually moved out of the Great West Conference the year after you won the championship. So the last year in the Great West Conference was the year that you won the championship. They eventually moved to the Missouri Valley Conference. Do you think after moving to that conference, do you think your team had a better chance of winning, like, the national FCS title?
Well, we always talked, I don't like people that don't dream. I don't like people that set, there's too many average people in the world. They just let things happen rather than try to make them happen. So we've always talked about competing for championships, even when we were, an average program, because I wanted guys to work like that and think like that. And I wanted that to be permeate our program. So when we went to the Missouri Valley, obviously, it's become the best FCS conference in America. Now, the CAA may argue that, or the Southern Conference may argue that, or whoever may argue that. But historically, if you look at it, the rankings, Sagarin rankings, and so on, Missouri Valley's been the best conference. So going in there, and the way it's developed, we did think we had a chance to win a national championship. And I would like to add one thing going back to the Great West Conference. Tom Duple who was the AD at Southern Utah, deserves a ton of credit because we were without a conference. North Dakota State and ourselves are out here in the plains with nobody to play, no FCS schools around, no affiliation, and he created that conference with Southern Utah, Cal Poly, and even St. Mary's was in it for a week, and then they dropped football.
Oh my
and so
gosh.
he saved us. And the other thing that saved me, and this is not a lot of people know this. Our scholarship process was to go from 36, which was the Division II level, to 63, which is the FCS level, in about 8 years.
Oh.
And so it's incremental. I'd have never survived if we did that. I would have never survived because we were playing teams with 63 scholarships. I checked our first FCS game. We got beat 52-0 by Cal Davis, and everybody thought it was pretty cool that the scores on ESPN ticker. I thought it was not good to have the score on the ticker. So anyway, we figured out that if we play an FBS game and get a $300,000 guarantee, we could pay for a lot of scholarships. So we upped our scholarship level to be able to play FBS schools. Really saved my job, I believe that.
Well, I mean, I see a lot with college football. When I first started getting into it, I was, like, really confused because when I first started, like, figuring out, okay, this team is good, this team isn't that good, why are these two teams playing each other then? Like, Alabama and North Texas, or Alabama and, like, Kent State, like, they always play each other on, like, the first week of the season or, like, the last home game. And at first, that had really confused me. But once I got more into having a deeper interest in it, then I realized it doesn't really benefit the better school. They can just win a game, even though they were already going to win that game in the first place. But the school that loses, they get a big check. So it really helps you guys out.
It does. We call those guarantee games. We have to do the same. We have to bring teams in here and pay them a lot of money to come to Brookings, South Dakota, because there are not a lot of schools out here in the Midwest. And so the thing that you don't want to happen if you're that school that's paying you that guarantee is to get beat. And 4 or 5 years ago, we beat Kansas in one of our guarantee games, and that's not what they want to happen. So every once in a while, if you follow the landscape of football, FCS schools will beat an FBS team, and this is a good level of football, really good level of football. This isn't Alabama, isn't LSU, isn't Ohio State, but this is a really good level of football.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, as you said, we do see upsets a lot in college football. That's one of my favorite things about college football is the thing that no team is guaranteed to win, actually, even in the guaranteed games, because you never know who is going to pull off a comeback. You never know who is going to pull off the most incredible upset in the history of college football. You see things like App State versus Michigan in 2007, James Madison versus Virginia Tech in 2013, and like you said, South Dakota State versus Kansas a few years ago. So, your team, in your original, I guess, alignment with the Missouri Valley Conference, your team struggled in the early years to succeed in the playoffs. You made the FCS playoffs in 2010, or in 2009, excuse me, and they struggled to succeed in the playoffs after that. So how did you adapt to their team's, I guess, ability to struggle in the playoffs?
Well, one of the things that FCS playoffs, first of all, when we made it in 2009, only 16 teams got in, and we were the 16th team. We were the 16th seed. We played the number 1 seed, Montana, and really had a beat. And they scored a ton of points in the fourth quarter and beat us. I think they scored 35 points late in the third and fourth quarter because we dominated most of the game. And so we were a good football team. Then we had 10 and 11. We didn't make it. And then, as you mentioned, we've been in the playoffs the last 8 years. Only 2 schools in FCS football can claim they've been in 8 straight playoffs. But going back to FCS playoffs, early in the stage, it was based on budget. And so you got whoever you got to pick the first time, and then it was by location. And so North Dakota State's one of the best programs in America, so are we. And we'd have to go up there in the playoffs for their home field advantage. Now they've changed that a little bit because it's not a true championship when it's all about saving dollars and stuff. But that's one of the reasons. We made the semifinals 2 years in a row, and 17 and 18. They had to go on the road for those, the semifinal game because of the seeding stuff. So home field advantage is huge. If we're the number one team in America, we're in the driver's seat, and that will improve our chances in the playoffs.
And eventually you did win the Missouri Valley Conference in 2016. How did you feel when that happened? Because I in my opinion, I feel like a championship in the Missouri Valley Conference, which is a very competitive FCS conference, is a little bit more rewarding than the Great West.
It is, and it felt good. I've matured. We talked about my early years as a head coach. I matured in the sense that I get my enjoyment through the players, through the parents of the players. It's not about me. They talk about how many wins I have. I work the least in the whole program. I don't work as hard as our support staff, and so I've been blessed. But that day when we won that and finished that, I knew our program was in a position to be able to compete every year for the championship and then ideally make the playoffs.
Your team has been getting closer and closer to an FCS title, falling in the semifinal round of 2017 and 2018. Do you think in the near future that your team has a good shot of winning it all?
I do, and I'm a guy that says dream big, pursue your dream, don't let anybody talk you out of it, and do it as hard as you can. And so, we've got really good football players. I believe in the concept that I learned as an educator and the self-fulfilling prophecy that when you look at something and you put it in your mind, you can accomplish it. Again, if I look at you as the best interviewer I've ever had, I'm going to treat you like that. I'm going to answer your questions like that. And so when I look at our players, I look at them as All-Americans. I look at them as guys that can win the big game. And we talk about those things. And I tell our coaches, when you walk into the meeting room every day, that's the best position group you'll ever have. I tell our coaches at the start of the fall camp, this is the best team we'll ever have at South Dakota State. Now, I've said that for 24 years in a row. So when is it going to be, or when has it been? I don't know, but why not look at that? Why not put that in your heart? So, we just got to be the number one seed, and then to win the national championship, you got a better chance because you get to host every game except for the final.
So you have said that you like to dream big with your football plans, and you like to dream big with just football in general. Would you be open to South Dakota State moving up to an FBS program?
I would be open to it. I don't think it would be the right thing. I don't think it'd be the right move for South Dakota State. Our school's 11,500 and some people. We're in a very conservative state. We have probably the best facilities in FCS football, but do we have the support to have 85 full scholarships and fly all over the place and so on? I don't know that. And I'm 63 years old. Maybe they should wait a little to make that decision for when I'm done.
So anyways, what advice do you give to your players that you think everyone should apply?
I think you should pursue your dream. I mentioned that earlier. Pursue your dream. Pursue it with everything you got. And don't let anybody talk you out of it. And so many of us don't stretch ourselves. So many of us, we talked earlier before we went on air about you being a Major League Baseball announcer. Well, that's a dream. How many people get to do that really want to do that?
Very few people. Yeah.
But when we don't do it, we'll never get there. We have a son that wants to be a screenwriter out in L.A., and I'm guessing there's 8,000 people for every one job. And when he said that, I had to say to him, pursue your dream, Samuel. Go do it. And let's see what happens. Because I've been able to do that. I've been blessed to do that, and been real lucky. And not lucky, been blessed. The Lord's had a plan, and I've been able to accomplish some of it.
All right, well, that will wrap it up for episode 5, that is, of the Dan Wilkins Show. That'll wrap it up. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Stiegelmeier.
Sounds good.